There's something about getting lots of people, them sharing collective euphoria. It's tribal, it's almost religious at times. It can make you high. If you're high, it can make you really fucking high. And it's charged with all these different ions of escapism, hedonism, sexuality, abandon, all the kind of things that young people dig. Right. I started DJing because I was a vinyl junkie. I was the only one who had all the records. 39 years I've been DJing. Have fun and break rules. That was my mantra.
What makes 250,000 people come to Brighton? You.
If there's a city that you live in and you're proud of and they're proud of you, there's no bigger pride than to do a big show and celebrate that mutual relationship. I think I enjoyed it more before I was sober, but I can't actually remember. I think I do a much better job now I'm sober. I get possessed by some spirit. There's certain gigs where I've just stopped, walked away from the decks and just stood there and just looked at the crowd. How it feels to be looking at this beautiful spectacle of all these people having fun. I just like making people smile and dance.
There's dancing behind movie scenes, behind the movie scene. Rarity, she's the one that keeps the dream alive.
When I moved to England in the late 90s, Fatboy Slim was everywhere. The legendary English DJ and record producer was winning Grammys and music video awards at will. Dropping hits like Praise You, the Rockafeller Skank, and Weapon of Choice, the whole world had its eyes on Britain and the big beat movement that he founded. I figured I'd never have a chance to meet him. Well, all that would change, because Norman Cook has invited me to his home in Brighton, a coastal enclave only 1 hour from London, but a place that couldn't be any more different. This is where he crafted his music in his own club starting in his teenage years that ended up changing the world. 20 years on, now Fatboy Slim is an in-demand DJ, playing at clubs and venues all over the world, from Ibiza to New York City to Rio de Janeiro. He's collaborated with the likes of Dizzy Rascal, Iggy Pop, and the Beastie Boys. But who is he now? What keeps him going? I've heard he's a man that just wants to make people happy. Now it's my chance to find out.
What we're about to do now is the world's shortest commute. Basically, I used to live next door, built the studio there, then when I had kids, moved here but left the studio there. So this was my commute to work.
Beautiful, let's do it.
It's 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, Norman's going to work at the studio. Follow me.
Thank you.
You can actually count the steps. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Wow. And here we are at work.
Oh, wow.
Honey, mate.
And so this was home.
So this was, yeah, I lived here at the time. Yeah, this was home until I had children.
And the place next door just came on the market?
It came on the market, it was big, it was larger, my wife was pregnant, and but I left the studio. Then at that point I was thinking my approach to making records and small children don't necessarily mix. So it's probably best to keep some kind of boundaries.
Okay, so they don't come over here that much?
Yeah, so they were never allowed over here.
Okay, all right.
So this
great. Oh,
is where everything was made.
Wow. And you're here on a regular basis?
No, sadly now it's
Okay.
more of a museum. I mean, everything is done in a laptop now.
Right.
But I just haven't the heart to get rid of all my lovely, wonderful, sexy old machines that stood me in such
Wow.
good
so
stead.
this was after the 808, was like the next generation afterwards?
Yeah, the 808 is more the hip hop one. That was the house.
Okay.
That's the house machine.
Okay. Atari, huh?
And the 303 is the acid house machine.
Right.
And in those days, the Atari was the thing that ran everything.
The weapon of choice.
The weapon of choice, yeah.
And 3.5 inch discs.
And yeah. Which were actually the.
Did you ever have floppies, or did floppies just come out of style?
No, I had huge amounts of floppies. They're all
Okay.
next door because I'm gradually digitising and putting them in Ableton.
Really? When was this made?
I don't know.
Early 90s.
It started because the son of the bloke from Atari was a musician, so it was the first one to put a MIDI port in.
MIDI, yeah, okay.
And then the MIDI port became slightly augmented, and then you could get one from there to here, and you could basically slave it up so that thing could control every single synth in the room.
Wow.
By one keyboard.
Okay. And what's this unit?
Well, this is the
samplers.
These are the samples. This is, I mean,
Sampler.
pretty much 90% of all my output came out of that one S950, as you can see by the dirt marks.
And that was state of the art at the time.
It was just behind state of the art.
Okay.
I think they'd invented the S1000, but I knew that so well. I knew it inside out. I knew I knew how to use it, and so. So I've just bought another S950, so I had more memory.
So you're a bit of a computer scientist.
No, I'm quite a Luddite. Everyone assumes that I'm really high tech, and as you can see.
Yeah, but you figured all this out.
Well,
and you
no,
wired it
I
all
figured
together.
out. At that point, it was my absolute passion. It was before I had children. I was single, and I was in the middle of this revolution of dance music. Yeah. Which became sort of big beat, and I was just so turned on about breaking rules and taking machines like this and seeing how you could mistreat them and what weird noises came out. And I was just so driven that it was just my absolute passion.
Did you have anybody to collaborate with as far as that was this into this electronics and computer stuff, or no?
Not into the electronic side of it. In terms of ideas, when I bumped into the Chemical Brothers and John Carter from Monkey Mafia and Richie Fearless, we felt like we were kindred spirits, and we were breaking the same rules.
Okay.
They had a club in London called the Heavenly Social. We had a club down here called the Big Beat Boutique. And I'd go and play at their club, they'd come play at my club, and we'd swap ideas. But yeah, we would swap a lot of ideas about, where did you get that break beat from, or how did you make that noise, or
Did they have similar setups? Did you ever go into their? They did. Okay.
Yeah.
So you would trade.
Well, in those days, this is all there was.
Okay, but this would have cost 10, 20 grand, 30 grand.
No. It was the first time it became affordable. Before that, pre that, when you had Fairlights, Fairlight was the price of a small house. But no, these things were cheap as chips.
Yeah, okay.
Still are.
Not that at the time, maybe.
That at the time, that was an investment, but like I said, you can make a whole record out of one of them.
And so this is like mid-90s when you're hanging out with Chemical Brothers and all that stuff. Okay. And you would go to London for influences.
No, I'd go to London to party.
Okay. All right.
I'd go to London, and during that, I would come home with some influences, but I generally went there to party, not to.
To research music.
Yeah, no, the influences came sitting in this room. That was this is my mood board wall.
Okay, can I take a look at that?
Yeah.
And would you hole up in here for days on end, or was that not your working style? Just
Okay. Not days on end. I would stop and sleep.
Okay.
But I would do I'd do a 24-hour session quite easily. Okay. Yeah.
Solo, or would you have people to bounce ideas off?
No, solo.
It's just solo.
Solo.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes longer if you have to bounce ideas of other people. Much better if you can just...
Okay, just get in the zone and work on the beat and work on an idea. Okay, and then this is mood board. Anything that you're thinking about, you stick up there.
Yeah, or just if you're bored, it's something that'll make you smile, make you laugh. But I mean, some of it literally that begat the name of the title of my first album, which is that's a flyer for a rave in San Francisco.
In San Francisco. That you were at, or someone just given it to you?
No, I just someone gave it to me, and I took it home, and it ended up on there, and then that ended up as the title of the album.
Wow, you know, there's so much Americana in what you do. So I moved to London in '97 from the States, and at first, I thought you were American.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Well,
that was only because I'd grown up listening to American music, but I'd never been to America. And for the first time in my life, I got a chance to go to America, and I went to America, and people liked me, and I was like, "Ah, fuck me, this is brilliant." So around the beginning of Fatboy Slim, that was the first time I'd ever been to America. So all these things,
so like
people I'd been hearing about, I was getting to meet, and clubs
late
that
90s.
I'd heard about.
Mid 90s, kind of.
Late, yeah, 90, about 95, 96.
Okay. Did the Americans think you might have been American?
Oh yeah, tons of Americans thought.
Music.
Tons of Americans thought I was a band.
Okay.
Because Rockafeller Skank sounded like a band rather than a DJ.
Right.
A lot of Americans thought I was black.
Okay.
And but then as soon as I went over there, they realised I was just this crazy, goofy. What's it? The Chemical Brothers goofy, drunken uncle.
Do you like kind of messing with their heads a little bit as far as them not knowing who you are or what you
are?
No,
because pre-internet it was actually quite hard because you would turn up at a gig, I'd start playing records and people used to stand there looking at me going, "What time's Fatboy Slim on?" And you know, after half an hour they're like, "Actually, what time is Fatboy Slim on? When are you going to stop playing records? When and where's the drum kit? And where's the amps?" And you know, and then they'd actually lean over to me and go, when's the band on? And I'm like, "No, I am Fatboy Slim." And they go, "Oh, okay." And then some of them would be a bit upset and some of them would then get into it. But pre-internet and YouTubes, they had no idea what to expect.
No way to check you.
No, yeah. So
check a website.
And some of them would actually, you know, go and demand their money back. So I paid to see a band called Fatboy Slim, and I don't want to see a bloke just standing there playing records at us. That's like a DJ.
And you were hired to do DJ gigs, or you'd play your own original stuff as well?
In those days, I was quite so prolific that half my set was either remixes of other people that I'd done or my own stuff.
Okay.
And also, the kind of music I wanted to play, there was very few of us. There was very few records. It was quite difficult to do a 2-hour set of the kind of music we wanted to play.
Okay.
And the first album I kind of made so I had enough tunes. They were made for me to complement my set.
Okay, so it's born out of necessity.
Yeah, born out of necessity because there was only a few of us making records like that. There was Bassbin Twin, who became my pen and pal. Bassbin Twin, and who lived on the West Coast. There's Chemical Brothers. Almond was breaking rules in those days.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, there was. But yeah, it was, and we used to play trip hop records at 45. Used to play techno records at 33. Just so that we had enough. Because before the sort of the big beat explosion, it was actually there was very few records that sounded like that.
Right. When I actually sat down with Bambaataa, and he wouldn't take his sunglasses off. It was amazing. He's a big guy, but he used to say that back in the day, it was like whoever had the record collection are the ones that got called, for the gigs.
Yeah,
that was.
And
so that's it. Is that all your?
There is.
And that's the original collection.
There is the record collection. Yeah.
And that was you back in the day.
Well,
back in the
it's
day.
difficult to explain to kids today the idea of rarity of records. There's two things that I can't explain to my son. One is the idea of rarity of records. Like you were the only person in that city who had that record, and people would come to hear you play that record.
That's crazy.
And they couldn't hear it on the radio.
Right.
They couldn't get their own copy of it. It was, and the other concept was the B-side.
Okay.
Because you don't have B-sides on downloads and streams.
Right.
And the B-side was often more exciting than the A-side because They'd made the single.
Right.
B-side, they'd start having fun and doing something. And things like Rebel Without a Pause started as a B-side.
Okay, so you get something weird and unique.
Yeah, Dub Be Good to Me started as a B-side.
Okay.
And because the pressure was off, so that's when you'd mess about.
So
and nobody does that anymore because there isn't.
Every track is precious now.
Well, every track is the potential A-side or just a potential stream.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to explain that to your son, and he's hard to get his head around it because there's copies of copies of copies now, and everything's so available at a.
Well, he's having trouble getting his head around an album. It's like, you had to buy the whole album, every single track on it. You didn't just pick the ones you wanted and stream it. He's getting trying to get his head around paying for music. You'd go out and you'd buy it, and then you had to possess it to hear it. You couldn't just click your phone and it would appear on your phone and you could listen to it. It's like, no, you had, I started DJing because I was a vinyl junkie. I was the only one who had all the records, and I would get invited to the parties because if I didn't come to the party, no one could hear the latest records.
When did you start collecting two records of the same kind?
When I started working with rappers.
With rappers, okay.
Because then you need 2 copies to keep the beat going.
Okay, so you would do the break beats and then for the rapper, kind of like old school in the Bronx style.
Yeah.
Okay, but
It was
here.
a direct copy. Yeah.
Direct copy, okay.
Absolutely direct copy.
Did you?
And we used to actually go the south coast.
Really? That's so like Grandmaster Flash said he spent 3 years trying to figure out how to actually mix those breaks. Do you think if he hadn't have spent the 3 years to do that, to show it could be done, that the rest of the world would have taken longer to do that?
It would have taken longer. It took me about 3 years to work out what Grandmaster Flash was doing.
Really?
I remember going to see him supporting the Clash, and there's about 20 in London, and there's about 20 of us down the front, all trying to look over the top to see how the hell he was making this, scratching, how he was doing it,
because he was doing the switcher and the scratching.
Yeah. Well, the idea that you press it forward when it's up, and you go take it down, and that. And a couple of journalists had said he was picking the needle up, and that was how he was repeating the phrases. We were like, try that. That definitely doesn't work.
You tried that for a little while.
Yeah.
But no one knew he was using.
To be honest, what he was doing with cutting stuff up was absolute genius and absolutely groundbreaking, and changed my life forever. That's when I stopped wanting to be a punk rocker and I wanted to be a DJ. But as soon as the sampler came in, I think probably the record then the next seismic shift was the 900 number. DJ Mark the 45 King, where he got an S900, which is the precursor to that
one.
And he found a loop that if you repeated it, if you repeat that for 3 minutes,
what song is that?
Sorry?
What song is that?
You don't know that?
I just know the name
The
of
900 number.
Oh,
Originally it was Unwind Yourself by Martha Whitney. It's a James Brown production.
Okay.
But he just took the sax break. It just went, and he just looped that up for 3 minutes. And he called it the 900 number because it was the Akai S900 that he looped it in. And that was what Flash used to do, going, just repeating the same section
Live.
over and over again.
Right.
But you didn't have to do it live. You didn't need 2 copies.
Yeah.
It always stayed in time.
Yeah. And Flash did it as a necessity to allow the MCs to flow, right? And maybe to let the B-boys dance.
Well, Flash would picked up the torch from cool DJ Herc, who was the first one to realise that the kids got most excited about the percussion breaks and the drum breaks, because there was no rap music in those days, so there was disco music and rock music, and the most exciting bits of the disco and the rock tracks were normally the drum breaks. So he was the first one to start elongating the breaks.
Right.
And that's
For the dancers, really, that got the party going, or not always?
That's he just saw that's where the kids got that, and then breakers.
Yeah.
Breakdancing was not called breakdancing because you broke your limbs doing it. It was because you'd wait for the break, and then you'd start dancing, and then you'd start doing the acrobatics, and that's when the crowd would start getting really excited. So Herc worked out if you bought 2 copies, you could elongate the break, and the break dancers would get more frantic. But he never quite worked out how to do it on beat. Okay. Flash took that and then worked out how to do it on beat, and worked out that while you were queuing it up, it made this wiki noise, and he invented scratching.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Did you meet these guys? Did you ever get to meet? I mean, Herc's
I haven't met Herc. I've
Okay.
met Flash many a time, and I mean, I've always cited him as one of my biggest influences, and you know, the reason why I stopped wanting to be in a punk band or a rock band and actually wanted to be a DJ. And yeah, no, Flash I have. Herc, sadly, never met him.
Right.
Yet.
And what about breakdancing? Like, there's always seems to be little breakdancing elements in even some of your videos. I mean, whether it's Spike Jonze doing his, you know, improvisational breakdancing number on the, you know, in West LA, or some of, you know.
I think that was just a reference, a historical reference.
Okay.
To, like I said, you know, we basically little snippets of information pre the information superhighway we have nowadays. Right. We just get these little snippets of what was going on in the South Bronx and the block parties and DJ Herc, and every now and then a cassette would come over with all these breaks on it and Cash Money cutting up and stuff like that. And we would just get these little snippets and get really excited about it and try and do it our way, a sort of English way. But it was the osmosis of how information travelled was much slower in those days, pre-internet.
Right. And what was the English way? And is it a bit of a Brighton way? Because like you're here, you're on the water. It felt like you almost had like a laboratory down in the town where you had your own little club, and you know, you'd play some beats in there, and then you'd see how the crowd react, and then you'd come back in here and like you're a mad scientist, but you also had that practical, you know, feedback loop.
Well, I was really lucky because by then I'd been a DJ for 10 years, so I was quite experienced as a DJ. I'd also been in bands by that point. I'd been in the House Martins and Freak Power, so I knew about musical structure and production.
Right. That a DJ wouldn't know necessarily.
Yeah. And you know whether something's in key or not. You know, people do mixes. I'm like, yeah, it's not actually in key. That's quite painful to the ear. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, that's, you know, your bass line's in G and the singer's singing in C. You know, so I had a kind of grounding from both sides, from the purely DJing and club side of it, but also from performing on stage and being a musician and knowing chords and being able to play musical instruments. So I kind of had a head start on other people.
Okay. And then also having the club night here that you started having was like your own little place to experiment and play around. And
yeah.
I don't know, I always get this feeling that if you had been London-based, like, you know, with the Chemical Brothers the whole time, your sound would have been a little different.
Yeah, there was something distinctly Brighton about our approach.
What is the Brighton feel? I mean, I'm from San Diego, and
Brighton. I think
this.
if I always say to American audiences, probably San Francisco would be Brighton. It's kind of where.
Because it's not Southern California.
Out on the fringe, very big gay population, very liberal city, very tolerant of alternative lifestyles, quite a historical sort of background, but without a real, that kind of ambition. People, anyway, if you go to New York, everyone's ambitious. Everybody there is trying to earn a buck or get themselves noticed. People in Brighton, we come here just to have fun and hang out. And if you get noticed, that's great. But we kind of come here to be within reach of London,
right?
Because it's only 60 miles away,
Yeah.
But it's people in Brighton are a bit more laid back and a bit less pushy and ambitious.
Okay, and that came out in the music?
I think so, yeah. Also, we're quite proud of the fact, and I think we're friendlier. We're friendlier, and we like the fact that we could, and also but also at the same time, a little bit proud of the fact that we're not London. I mean, I used to write "Made in Brighton" on my records because they were recorded down here. Because everyone expected, as soon as you get famous or you need a recording studio, you automatically go to London. It's like, no, we stayed here. And Skin, our record label, was a Brighton record label, and so the whole thing was done here. We didn't need London. But I mean, that goes, pre that, in the House Martins, our first album was called London Nil Hell 4. you know, the wind-up had started, even in those days.
You're always representing Brighton, and it's...
Well, just a little bit. Well, just kind of... A lot of people in London think it's the centre of the universe in a way that, you know, a lot of capital cities do, and they don't believe that anything of any interest or note happens outside their city.
And what is it about the water? I mean, does this help you create? Does it calm you down?
No, I don't know. It's, for me, it's when you get stressed out about life. When you're in the middle of London, you're surrounded by traffic and noise and people and everything. Here, no matter what goes on, whatever kind of shit goes on that side, you can turn your back on it and go, ooh, ooh. You don't feel surrounded and hemmed in by it. There's always that peace that way.
Yeah. And
if that gets too much, you just ignore that and look that way. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Whether or not, I don't know. I think it's less of an inspiration and more of a distraction, because because rather than looking out there and thinking, I know which kick drum I'm going to use on this track, I spend more time looking out there thinking, oh, I'm supposed to get back to work. It's been 20 minutes.
Do you get lost in it?
Yeah, sometimes.
It's kind of nice, right?
Yeah, kind of nice. Kind of nice, but again, not necessarily the most productive. And if you're ambitious and you're trying to get things done, maybe you should concentrate and focus a bit more. But there's more to life than being focused.
You were really a unique thing at the time, to throw all this sound at people and them not knowing what it is or how even to define it, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of fun. There was a real kind of frontier spirit. Right. Also, I mean, you know, things like sampling, you know, we didn't know what the rules were. We were sampling stuff, getting away with it. So then we'd sample something else, not get away with it, and then nobody knew what the rules were. They didn't have sample clearance lawyers.
Okay. When did you first get busted for a sample? Was that just the record label's problem?
No. It's
your label.
I end up paying for it.
I mean, that's millions of dollars, right? Or is it all your royalties?
I think if you added it up over the years, it would go into millions that I've had to pay out because of my stupidity. But equally, I've got away with murder.
Okay, and no one's ever come around because they don't know it's on there?
Not yet.
Okay, I won't say that.
Not yet.
But that was good. It was like you didn't ask for permission, so you just went trailblazing ahead and said, I'm going to take
in those
this.
days, there were no rules for sampling. Nobody quite knew what the rules were. And as long as the person that you sampled didn't personally really take offence and come after you, or if they never heard the record, or if you made a record that was a club hit in England, and it was made by a 70-year-old bloke who lived in America, then he'd never ever know about it. Right. It was like, as long as you kept it out of film soundtracks, that was when you normally got busted. Is if it got used in a film soundtrack, someone in his family would hear it and go, I'm sure that's my uncle, and they'd play it to him, and then you get busted. But no, it was quite fun. Like I said, it was frontier. It was like the Wild West. You know, you got away with what you could get away with. You did what you could get away with. We pushed technology to the limits of what we could with very cheap equipment, and we sampled whatever we thought we could get away with. And I mean, mostly, at first, I got away with murder. That was what the problem was. For the first 3 years, I just thought you could just sample things and you know. It was only with the hits come the writs.
Right, then they come looking for you.
Yeah, that's when they come after you.
The album, you've come a long way, baby. I mean, did you know it was going to be so big? Did you know those singles were going to go so big?
I kind of had a feeling.
Because you played them for crowds.
Yeah, Better Living Through Chemistry kind of caused a stir, and I started going to America, and we realised we were onto something. But also we were kind of honing our craft of which bits were really turning people on. So by the time we came to Come a Long Way, Baby, I kind of knew what I was doing. You know, it wasn't just like, I'm doing something right, but I don't quite know why I'm doing it. It's like, I know which bits I'm doing right, and if I do them and ignore the other stuff. So we kind of figured something was building. I mean, I never thought it would cross over into like the pop charts or get played on the radio or do a deal, get to #1, you know. But we kind of, you could feel the momentum growing.
Okay.
Like you said, we had our own little club, and the queues were getting longer every week.
Right.
and we knew, and more people, more journalists were coming down to Brighton, because at first, they would just sort of ring up and say, when's he next in London? It's like, no, he lives in Brighton, and they're like, can we come down to Brighton? And then the next thing we know, there'll be, people coming down to Brighton on a weekly basis. So we kind of figured we were onto something. But even in those days, dance music didn't sell albums, it sold 12-inch singles. Right. And I think the Prodigy and the first Chems album had set the bar of actually maybe you could make a good dance album that would sell.
Okay. As a DJ, did that give you even more of a feedback loop than, say, if you had been in a rock band or a pop band, to where you're actually playing these tracks and you can feel like, okay, they like this, they like this. So that gives you a unique kind of a feedback loop.
So, at best, probably the best example was Rockafeller Skank, because I played Sliced Tomatoes by the Just Brothers, which is an old Northern Soul record. I played that in the middle of my set.
The whole track you played, and people reacted to it.
And everyone was like, "Oh, this is groovy." So I thought, like the 900 number, that riff is a good little groove. So I looped it up, but it was completely the wrong speed. And then I remembered I had this sample of somebody saying, right about now, it's no other than the Funk Soul Brother. And so I chopped that up into little bits. But that was literally on the Sunday night after playing the Boutique on the Friday, and then we had a party on the Saturday, and all these ideas were kind of going through my head. So I just put together the weekend's festivities into one record, and it came good. It's not an exact science. It doesn't always work, but I think a lot of the ideas came out of playing old records at the club, thinking, the crowd dig that bit.
Right, they love that reaction. So put it together.
And then I'd do a little demo of it, and
okay, so you did a demo, and then you could play the full thing exactly how you want it.
No, that would just be that's the initial demo, and then
no soul, rap. And who was the rap on that? Because he says Lord Finesse.
This is Lord Finesse.
So it is Lord Finesse.
Yeah.
No one knows Lord Finesse. That's really old school, right?
That was one of my things of sampling. A, in terms of not getting sued, but B, in terms of it being more fun. I didn't like sampling things that had been hits.
Okay.
I like to sample obscure things. The best thing is to take a really shitty record, find that one good loop out of it and make a really good record out of it. Rather than, I think around that time, I think there was P. Diddy doing I'll Be Missing You, and it's like, you've just taken a Please song that that everybody likes, and you've just changed a couple of words.
Yeah.
There's no, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. There's no, where's the art in that?
Yeah.
So
he used to make fun of himself in his own lyrics, right? I take hits from the 80s.
Yeah. So mine was never sample a tune that was a hit in the first place.
Okay.
Because that's too easy. And so you would end up with all these piles of junk shop records that you've bought because they had really silly, they had stupid looking covers.
And you got all these in Brighton or somewhere?
No, everywhere I went around the world, I would spend the afternoon in a thrift shop.
And so then you just brainstorm. You're in here and you go through. Okay, what do I remember about that? But you got to take it out and physically play it on the thing.
Then I put it on a disc.
Okay, if it sounds interesting.
If it sounds interesting, or if there's a drum beat on its own, or a bass line on its own.
You put it on disc so later you can grab it.
Yeah.
Although there doesn't seem to be a complicated cataloging system going on here.
Well, no, that's because that bit was full, but they're all next door being digitized.
Okay. But you used to be kind of alphabetized, or you kind of know where everything was?
I could bore you for hours with. I've got little notebooks with them all written down.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. And you had the beats per minute on each track, and you always had two records.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I got rid of a lot of the second copies because I was running out of room, but
okay.
But all the stuff I DJ'd with, this is
just all ideas for music, and none of these things are famous, really.
No, and most of them are pretty bizarre looking.
And American. Wow. All American?
Mainly American, yeah.
Okay. Because they had the volume and all the funk and the weird stuff.
Yeah, they were taking drugs.
Okay. Did that help?
Yeah. I mean, the sort of the...
What's the
if
drug
it's
of
a
choice here?
A multi...
Music.
Sorry?
Heroin? Marijuana? What's the drug of
Marijuana
choice?
mainly.
Okay.
If it's a multiracial band with long hair and who look like they took drugs, then normally there'd be something good on there. You know, that's it.
That's awesome. I was watching this documentary on the Eagles, and they were talking about how the drugs kind of changed their music, and it was like the weed era, and then when the cocaine era came in, you know, all the music changed. But I don't know if that was a lagging indicator or a leading indicator.
Yeah, it's quite hard to tell from people's haircuts and clothes what drugs they're taking, but so you have to take a bit of a punt.
Okay, but you can guess.
I don't know. It just, if they just look like they were a bit freaky, they're more likely to play freaky music, and that I'm more turned on by freaky music than I am by pop music.
Okay.
Oh, this is exactly where the Lord Finesse came from.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's one of his...
It was a whole load of drum loops, and he just did a little vocal introduction saying, "Welcome to Volume 2 of Tracks of Barn Dogs, right about here. It's no other than the Funk Soul Brother, Lord Finesse."
And then boom, it clicked in your head, and then you sped it up on the keyboard.
I chopped it into syllables so that I could make a rhythm out of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
check it out now. Okay.
Because he wasn't actually rapping it; he was just saying it like a bumper, like a radio ID.
And when it comes to a video like that, again, is it all that stuff that's in your head where you're like, I want the guys with the afros doing this?
Oh no, I hated that video. I thought that was every single cliche that I hated.
Okay.
And while I was out there filming that video and hating it, I bumped into Spike Jonze, and he showed me this video of him just doing really stupid breakdancing and I was like, okay, scrap that really expensive video full of cliches. Let's make one with Spike.
Why did you feel Spike right away? Like, why did you?
He found me.
Okay.
He found me. I got to the it's next door. I got to my hotel room to do my little cameo in the official Rockafeller Skank video, and there's a VHS in my room with a little note saying, "I saw this guy dancing to your tune. Thought you might like to see it. By the way, I'm a real fan. Love, Spike Jonze." And I watched it and I thought, this is great. I said, right, okay, cancel tomorrow's shoot, really expensive shoot. This is going to be the video. And the record company went, no, I'll do that. That's really cheap shit.
Which it was. So why did it move you?
Because it was cheap shit and it was silly and it wasn't riddled full of cliches, and it took music as seriously. It took videos as seriously as I took music, which is nothing is sacred. Just use cheap equipment but a good idea or a funny idea,
right?
Rather than having glossy models and cliches that have been done before. And
so have fun with it. Don't take
have
yourself
fun
too
and break
seriously.
rules. That was my mantra.
That's a Brighton thing. Maybe.
That was my have fun and break rules. But don't upset. Not to upset people. Just in the name of fun.
Okay, and when Spike's jumping around on the sidewalks of New York City or whatever, doing his performative dance, that to you was like.
I was like, that really makes me laugh. It really brings the song to life. The whole slowy down bit, he went all slow down,
yeah.
and he's bumping into people, he's knocking people off the pavement. Yeah. It was completely like illegally filmed, and
that as well.
That ended up as the Praise You video.
Yeah.
We didn't have time to cancel all the other things that we'd done for the Rockafeller Skank, but I said you've got to do Praise You. You've got to do the next single. So he did Praise You, and he said, well, let's take it one step further, and not rather than just me doing it, let's get a little troupe all doing. But a lot of those moves were in the original one thing that he sent me.
Was it hard to sell that to the label?
Yeah, really hard.
I mean, it was an $800.
It wasn't hard to sell it to them because it was an $800 video, and they're like, fine. When I showed it to them, they went, okay, we've got to make a proper one because that just looks. And I said, no, trust me. And they took it to MTV, and MTV said, we're not going to show it. It's, you're just taking the piss. This is just cheap rubbish, and we've got to make another one. And I said, no, we're not making another one, that's it. And they were like, okay. But then VH1 picked up on it, and they had some viewers vote thing, and it won the viewers vote like 5 weeks running because everyone thought it was hilarious. And I suppose it was the first sort of viral, something that wasn't, you know, it was under the radar, and kids are going, have you seen that? Have you seen this video?
Yeah.
And so then, because VH1 were playing it, MTV started playing it, and it ended up winning tons of awards. But for the first month, I think MTV just refused to play it. They said, I think substandard was how they described it.
Substandard. Okay.
Substandard.
Is that
technically and artistically substandard.
Is that?
Well, it was filmed. It was because it wasn't filmed on. It was filmed on. I mean, nowadays you take it for granted that you can film on cameras this size.
Right.
But it was literally filmed on like little handy cams.
Like those little, like things you'd take on a vacation or something like that. Yeah. I mean, is that the epitome of art, where the great art first offends people and people don't even say it's art?
That would be one. Yeah, I've never thought. I mean, I've never described what I do as art.
Yeah.
I think art is, for me, is something that's a bit more high, a bit more cultured, and has had a bit more thought put into it, and you can write books about it, you know, and explain the inner meaning of it. I just like making people smile and dance. You know, there's no real agenda. It's, you know, it's just instinctive.
Yeah.
Whereas art is something that, you know, centuries later people will still be finding new things in it, you know.
Yeah, but you have Keith Haring down in your front doorway, and when people first saw that, I mean, he's in a subway.
He's
animals with lines sticking out.
Yeah, but a lot of people said he wasn't art for a long, long time. Right. I mean, but also the reason I love Keith Haring, he was coming out of the same hip hop era, and you know. That, you know, again, it's really exciting for me to go to New York and actually see Keith Haring pieces there in New York after just kind of seeing little things in magazines and stuff. But no, I think he was very much, it's the same as us being DJs not being seen as musicians. He wasn't seen as an artist, he was seen as a graffiti writer. Right. Nowadays, you can be both, and you can be, you know, and sometimes, but in those days, we were kind of the subculture, and it was fun.
Yeah, you enjoyed that, right?
Yeah.
And so when you come in here, well, back in the day, when you're sitting down, I'm like, all right, I'm going to create some sounds that make people happy. I mean, that's your goal. Yeah. You're transferring energy, right?
Yeah. I'm just trying to make sounds that would turn people on. If that will make them high, or if they're high, it'll make them higher.
Higher, okay.
By whatever means necessary. Sometimes it would mean me getting quite high while I was making them.
Would that help them get high sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. It's not exact science. Sometimes I just end up really high and make a really shit tune. But no, it was just, there's a lot of experimentation, a lot of, for every hit that came out of this studio, there's a lot of rubbish.
Right, people forget that, right?
Yeah, I've always said you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. But hopefully you didn't get to hear too much of the rubbish.
And when it comes to performing, you're all about connecting with the audience, right? I mean, you said that, I think you said eye contact is your big thing when you're teaching.
Eye contact, physical contact. Physical contact's a bit more difficult.
Did you used to jump out and surf in the crowd? And
yeah, I still like to get out there, but you kind of get mauled a bit. Since they invented selfies, it's kind of hard to get around. It's drinks, people putting their hand over to shake your hand. I mean, I try and do as many fist bumps and handshakes as I can, but there's equipment around there that gets knocked, and people try and shake your hand with a drink in their hand. It's like, no, that's not going to work with all these electrics around here. But I like to, that's, for me, it's not, that's the difference between a DJ and a rock star. A rock star wants to be on a pedestal on a stage, and he wants a pit and security between him and the crowd, and he wants to make him stand there and strut, and everybody looks at him and applauds. The DJ wants to be part of the party. We want to be involved. We want to be in control of it, but we don't necessarily want the spotlight on us. Right. The crowd is the star of the show, and we're just providing the soundtrack.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, and I'll see you on the inside.